Hello and welcome to what is going to be a very interesting show. Stencils. How to use them, how not to use them, and also how to get started in airbrushing cheaply. For the demo, I have a less than $30 Harbor Freight Avanti gravity feed airbrush. Artist ink, you can get this from any hobby store. These are the stencil sets that I have up on my website, tntcustompaint.com. I use these for the demos for my classes, and an air source. This is a 2.5 horse Hitachi, but any pancake compressor or airbrush compressor is fine. So what do I like, or why do I like recommending using artist ink when you are just learning how to airbrush? Well, reason number 1, 2, and 7 is that this stuff's just ready to paint with. I'm using paper. This is just paper from my print store, my local printer. He gives me a bunch of this stuff all the time. You don't have to reduce this. It cleans up with water. So why wouldn't you use it? And another thing that I like about it also is that you don't have to reduce it. You don't have to worry about paint reduction, mixing ratios, and all that other stuff. You put it in your hopper and you go. I'm dropping stuff everywhere. Okay, what not to do. This is what you don't do, okay? This is what I see a lot of people do. Don't do this. Hammer on your skull like this. Line up. Now that looks like a stencil. Don't do this or this. Makes a mess everywhere. It's a mess. Then when I go in and try to detail it, it's already so dark that when I try to punch in all the darks and get all the detail, it's going to be kind of hard for me to get back into it and really detail it up. So all this stuff's too dark. It's going to be too hard for me. Now I have to work back and forth with white and black until I get it to where I need it to go. Let me show you an easier way. Now if I take the same stencil here and I just do light coats right around all of the hard line areas that I want, but I don't get hard line in this area here. I just want a hard edge in this area here. I'm just going to go real light. And fades and shades is what I always say. You don't want big, long lines. You just want to bump that trigger back and forth nice and light with the trigger, okay? Light with the trigger. I'm going to get right around this eye socket. Up in here. I'm really trying to keep it just on this edge. Then that will help me go ahead and be able to kick back all of my details with my freehand lines. You don't want a stencil to look like a stencil at the end of it. Draw your own, get these, do whatever you got to do. Use stencils to your advantage because it definitely helps take a lot of the design time off of your project. You could draw it out, pre-plan it, size it up, and see the difference already. Now let's do it on a bigger scale so you can see it a little bit better. Gonna go right on the inside, right here, then just a little bit for a reference line, and I'm just hitting that for the shadow. Right under here, there for the eyebrow, eye socket, and then I can go really light into these details, but then I could go heavy around the shadow. If I have light coming from this way, all the shadows are going to be down here. So we could punch this stuff in a lot, get underneath here, and just kind of lightly fade up and down. Get heavy under here, because again, our light source is coming from that way that I just chose right now. All right, I'm going to go right up under this cheekbone, right into those teeth. And again, I'm just bumping the trigger back and forth. I'm not really doing anything too heavy. I want nice fades and shades. Then I could build on my lights, build on my darks, and that's where you get your depth from. If you just start hammering paint on all over the place, it's going to look really one-dimensional, really stenciled, and really beginner. You could cut down a lot of your time, work time, and experience, like the whole fake it till you make it thing, by just doing this, just bumping the trigger and having nice light coats of stuff. So here, let's pull this off here. And here we'll go into here. There we go. Now let's detail this real quick. All right, I did take the air cap off right there. I do it just for detail reasons, so I could see where the needle is, and I could get up real nice and close to it. I've been doing this for years. I stab myself all the time. You will too, so don't worry about it. I do have a little tail on this airbrush here. So a tail is when I'm done with my dagger stroke. I got a dagger stroke, and the paint, see how it just keeps trailing off? So there's something stuck inside my fluid nozzle right here. So the fluid nozzle is right up inside here. I'm going to back the needle out, go back and forth, and set that needle into the fluid nozzle a little bit more and see if that does it. And it's a little better. So there's something just stuck in there, but it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and finish up this demo. So put the back on. And see how I'm just bumping the trigger and I'm going right over all my lines again. I'm actually using that needle not set into the fluid nozzle now to my advantage. I could use that as my detail. All I'm doing is pushing air. So you can use that to your advantage if you only have one airbrush and you really got to keep going. But see how I'm building up the dark here on that edge and fading it down? It gives it that sense of volume, gives it that sense of roll. I'll give this a little bit here. But I'm just going back and forth in these areas and creating my volume. If I were to get too dark, like I did with this one, you'll never be able to do that. You'll never be able to get that softness back unless you go back and forth with black and white, like I said before. And it just takes too long. Time is money. You don't want your client to be spending a ton of money with you just going back and forth with colors if you can just crush it real quick on your initial blow-in. See how soft that is and nice that is? If you have any questions about airbrushing, where to start, what to do, whatever, throw it down in the comment section and we'll get back to you. This channel is here for growing, learning, and painting like a pro on YouTube. You can learn how to paint really good on YouTube. So don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't get discouraged. This is a nice community that we're building here for airbrush and pinstripe artists, lettering artists. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out, and we will get you on the right track here. But now what I'm doing is I'm creating one more area of depth within this bone of the cheek. So I'm going just above it, and I'm letting that highlight from my stencil right in between here be that extra little edge. And see how these come into play real nicely? So I'm going to go in with just a small dagger stroke this way, dagger stroke this way, dagger stroke all the way up, and me just bumping that trigger gives it the illusion that it's rolled around this area. So if I were to do this on silver with black, you could candy over this in any color, and you'll see all the details of the black through the candy covering that silver. So that's one thing that I really like to do if I'm not doing like a realistic skull with, you know, a bone color, you know, ivory and stuff like that, is I like to go in with my candy colors on silver and really punch in detail You could even do some brush strokes with a regular paintbrush if you want to get like, you know, real fine cracks. Like if you want to do a little crack right here, you know, you could get into like real fine brush strokes if you want to do something like that, rather than, you know, airbrush it in. But I use the regular paintbrush a lot with hairs on animals and such. So I did get a little heavy with these, but you can rework it in. Just blend it out. Blend it, blend it. Detail it, detail it. Little lights in the details here. Give it cracks, give it some funky textures, and really make these skulls come to life. That's the whole point of airbrushing, is you want whatever you're airbrushing to come to life. Sometimes you got to blow up, sometimes you got to blow the airbrush out. Give her a good blowy, and then get back to it. So, but I did, and the needle stuck, and it's still sticking for some reason. This is the first time with this brush that I have had this problem, and it's nice to do it on a YouTube, so then you can see kind of what I do. Make sure it sets, give it a little taparoo, hold it. All right. And we're back in action. All right. I like to keep the air on. It gives me the ability to continue the flow. And I'm bumping that trigger back and forth, always. Just bumping the trigger back and forth. That's it. Just psh, 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 psh. See how I had that little blowout right there? I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to fade it out. Happy mistakes. Happy little mistakes. And in just a few minutes, you got yourself a pretty decent looking skull by just fading and shading, bumping the trigger, and not hard lining your initial blow-in. So again, if you have any questions, if you need any supplies, or you just need help, tntcustompaint.com, grab some supplies over there, go down in the comments section, ask me any questions over there, find me on Instagram or TikTok, Tom Hudach, H-U-D-A-C-H, and I'll answer your questions for you. I hope this helped, and I hope you learned something, and I hope this cuts a lot of learn time off of your endeavor into airbrushing. Let me know again if you have any questions or problems. Talk to you later.